Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of College Hockey Talk. On today's podcast, I'm joined by a very special guest, freshman from the Northeastern women's hockey team, Lily Yovetich. Welcome to the podcast, Lily, and thank you so much for coming on. How's everything going?
Pretty good. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
No problem. Thank you so much for coming on, like I just said before. Now, what have you been up to since the season last ended a couple of months ago, and have you had time to reflect on making it all the way to the national championship game?
That's a great question. I unfortunately got COVID right after we got home from the national championship, so I am slowly recovering from that. Um, but yeah, honestly, just got home. I haven't really thought about the championship too much. I've kind of put it far out of my brain, but no, yeah, I just think obviously a good experience for my freshman year for us to go that far. But yeah, it was a fun experience, I have to say.
Yeah, and how are you doing now after having COVID? And do you still have any long-term symptoms, or are you feeling a little bit better?
I'm feeling pretty good. I'm still trying to get my smell and taste back, but COVID is real, and I experienced that. But I'm doing good now. Thank you.
Well, that's good to hear. And that must be weird not being able to taste or smell things. How do you adjust to that? Because I don't know if I could do that, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah, I just eat for fuel and not for pleasure at this point, but just mental battle.
Yeah, definitely. And what are some of your off-season plans, I guess, heading into next year? What do you hope to work on for your game?
I think personally for me as a freshman now going into my sophomore year, just to have more confidence and to kind of have that experience that I gained going to the Frozen Four and experiencing what it's like to play in high pressure games. So just kind of remembering that I have that in my back pocket just as I am expected to do more as my role will change as I get older on the team.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to transition a little bit and talk about the beginning of your hockey career and move on to where you are currently with Northeastern. So you're from Los Angeles, California. How did you start playing hockey and falling in love with the sport, especially in an area like LA where hockey isn't really a hotbed there?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Hockey's not popular here compared to places like Canada. And my family actually is originally from Canada. So I'm Canadian, and we decided to move down here when I was super young. And my brothers, I have an older brother and then a younger brother. So my older brother started to play hockey. And I was a huge tomboy growing up. So I wanted to play hockey because I wanted to be just like him. And then it just kind of turns into us just wanting to be better than the other. And I think that's where I fell in love with the sport and decided that I wanted to do that for basically the rest of my life, or as long as I can.
Yeah, definitely. And was there any favorite player you had growing up, like on the Kings or maybe a women's hockey player that you admired?
Well, being Canadian, Haley Wickenheiser for me was someone that I always kind of looked up to. She kind of paved the way for a lot of young women playing the sport. So I just always grew up kind of looking to her and wanting to be like her.
Yeah, was it cool to see her get inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame a few years ago? Because I know that meant a lot to a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think someone that I followed kind of most of my life, like it was kind of a matter of time that she did, but it was amazing when she did. And it was a huge step and really kind of continued to break barriers for women, which is really cool to see.
Yeah, and what's the California hockey scene like? Because I know it's growing because there's a lot of great players coming from California, like yourself, Dominique Petrie, she plays for Harvard, and Annie Pankowski, she won a national championship with Wisconsin. She's from California as well. So talk about that California hockey scene and what's it like being a part of it.
Yeah, I mean, you're totally right. It's totally growing. And even on the men's and women's side, you do see a lot of really great hockey players. But at least I actually know Dominique Petrie very well. We grew up playing boys hockey. And at the time, the closest women's team was down in Anaheim. And we're both from Los Angeles, so that just didn't work. So she played on the Ducks and I played on the Junior Kings. And it was a super fun experience super competitive. I enjoyed that, but now kind of transitioning to present, there's like a girls team at the Junior Kings. There's a ton of girls hockey player. They actually have teams now instead of just having like one main team full of girls, which is really amazing to see. But unfortunately, or I guess fortunately too, like at the time that I was playing that, I just played boys hockey, which kind of exposed me to different things as well.
Yeah, and I guess like did you face any adversity getting noticed by colleges since you are from California?
I mean, we always traveled. I always played on a girls team, whether it was with a like just a tournament team or something like that. So I always played boys hockey, and then I did tournaments before transitioning to girls hockey. So we did have opportunities to be seen, but I think sure, yeah, it was a little more difficult because I wasn't in Boston or in Canada where I was constantly being looked at for sure.
Now, before Northeastern, you did play for the Anaheim Lady Ducks. Just talk about your experience there and what did you take away from it?
Yeah, I mean, there was great coaches there. And they really kind of helped me transition from boys hockey to girls hockey, and kind of because the game is really different, which I came to realize super fast when I transitioned, and they kind of helped me and prepared me for what it was like to go through even the recruitment process and go through and know what it takes to play Division I hockey, which they knew was my overall goal.
Yeah, and what was the transition like going from boys hockey to girls hockey, and how did you adjust to that?
Well, I actually played boys hockey up until my Bantam minor year. So I played a year of hitting, and I was always physical when it came to playing the game, but I was bigger than most boys at the time, and so I really felt like I thrived in that environment because I was bigger and I was able to throw the body around. And so when I did come to girls team, I was racking up penalties just because I didn't know how to not hit and how to kind of slowly guide into the boards instead of like coming back and winding up and putting my shoulder into their chest. But that for me was a huge struggle coming over for sure.
Now, what's the biggest hit you've ever thrown in your hockey career?
I don't know, to be honest. There's just one tournament. I don't know why I thought that I should try to make an open ice hit on a huge male, and I don't know how he fell. I think his head was down or something, but I just remember thinking, "Oh my god, like that's a pretty big body." But I was just like, oh, "Okay, like keep going." Didn't want to. Is
Hmm.
what it is.
Do you think hitting should be allowed in women's hockey in your opinion? Because I think it adds a different aspect to the game. I know some players are for it and some players are against it. I want to hear your opinion on that.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote a paper this year debating that, and I don't know, I'm kind of torn because I look at how much skill and how fast girls hockey is, and I feel like there is more skill because they're not worried about getting killed every second, and you kind of can get away with those suicide passes and just plays that would never work in boys hockey because you would just be have your head taken off. But at the same time too, I think a lot of injuries come from girls not knowing how to take a hit, and it's just fluky injuries where they just go into the boards wrong. And I feel like that could be avoided if don't teach girls how to hit, but let them play and let them learn to take a hit and to always be shoulder checking and to know, okay, yeah, like my head should be up at the same like at every second of the game.
Yeah, because I noticed there was a lot of physicality in the championship game with Wisconsin, and I thought it added a different aspect to the game, and I thought the refs did a great job of swallowing the whistles a little bit and letting you guys play. I don't know if you felt the same way about that.
No, I agree 100%. Again, being new to college hockey scene, I don't know what it's like playing in other leagues. And apparently, like Hockey East, there's not a lot of things that go unnoticed compared to like Minnesota Duluth and like Wisconsin leagues. So I found when we did get there, it allowed other players that did have that physical game to really thrive in those environments because it wasn't really necessarily about who was the fastest or who was the skilled. It was just kind of like playing the body right and being smart. And that's why I felt like every game was such a challenge. But at least for me personally, that Minnesota Duluth game, it was like a new layer that I wasn't used to, because I was like, oh, these are girls 4 years older than me. Now they're gonna come at me basically and throw a full on body check, and I'm gonna have to be like, okay, like how am I gonna react to this now, not doing that for the past 21 games of the college season.
Yeah, and I want to kind of transition a little bit back before Northeastern a little bit. And what was your favorite memory with the Anaheim Lady Ducks when you were with that organization?
um I think it would be, we we were not we were obviously not like the best team. We were the best team in California because we were the only team, but compared to other teams, we weren't the best. And we had to play Washington to go to regionals, and it was tough. It was a team that had like more skaters than us just alone, and then more girls that were committed and going to schools. And so we were kind of the underdog, and we ended up beating them. But that was kind of the biggest thing my team had ever won. And for me at that point, anything that I've won. And so that was pretty exciting for me in that moment.
Yeah, and you then went on to play in the PWHL for the Ottawa Lady Senators. How did you get the opportunity to go to Canada and play with that organization?
So I'm Canadian, which actually made it a lot easier for me to go over and play, because they're only allowed 2 Americans per team. And so I would count as a Canadian. But my coaches at Northeastern at that point had already committed to go there. And I was like, hey, like, the drive to Anaheim's really far. Like, is there another place that I could go and play? And they're like, yeah, like, go to play in the PW. And so I actually played for Barrie my first year. And then I went on to play 2 more years with the Ottawa Senators. And so that's how I kind of ended up there, and then kind of moved to Ottawa from there.
Yeah, and how did playing with Ottawa help prepare you for college hockey with Northeastern? Because I was looking at some of the players who were on that roster. There was a lot of D1 college hockey commits.
Yeah, well, I will say that I think that league is kind of the best league for girls that age at the time, because you have all the Team Canada girls, and it's just such a smaller pool. Like, there's only 20 teams, and so you do have the best of the best, instead of in the U.S. leagues where there's so many teams and it's kind of more watered down. And so I was going against Team Canada girls all the time, and that just always challenged me. On top of, like, you did see like Katie Knoll, Sydney Bard, who were U18 national or U18 USA kids at the time too. So you also got like the best of the US like teams there too as well.
Yeah, and what was your recruitment process like, and what made you want to go to Northeastern at the end of the day?
Um, I just started sending emails, making phone calls, and Northeastern was actually the first school to ever show interest in me when I was super young. And they're like, we're going to continue to watch you. And I was like, okay, cool. And I saw the school when I think in 8th grade, and I was like, okay, cool. I really like this. Continued to look at other places, and then they eventually offered me. And even after seeing every school, I was like, I fell in love the second I stepped on campus. And I really felt a really great like connection to the coaches, and I was like, okay, yeah, like I would totally want to be coached by them and learn from them. And that was kind of what made me decide to go to Northeastern.
And what was the biggest adjustment you had to make to college hockey? Was it the speed of the game, or was it kind of the mental side of the game since you're making quicker decisions with the puck?
Yeah, I definitely think a little bit of both. I found, for me growing up, you had those two lines on every team that were just really great, and then the rest of the team kind of dropped off. But at Northeastern, at the Division 1 level, like, you don't have that. Everyone is really great, and so that was just super hard, because it was no reps off. Like, everyone was going to give you a battle. Like, nothing was ever easy, and it was like practice was just as hard as a game, which was awesome. But for sure on the mental side too, um, it's hard. Like, it's hard to play. It's hard to get ice time, and having a bad shift and knowing that you probably won't go out for the next game or the next shift, or you're not going to know when you're going out. Like, that's mentally tough, and that challenges you. But that's something you have to learn and adjust if you want to play at that level.
Yeah, and going against some of the best players in college hockey, playing for Northeastern, what was the biggest improvement you've made to your game playing against those players on a daily basis?
I think honestly, just confidence for sure. Like you have a Sky Fontaine, you have an Elena Mueller, Chloe Roard, and Maureen Murphy, and everyone, and they are some of the best hockey players I've ever played against, and they are there being so supportive, being like, okay, you got this, like you made a mistake, but you're good, you're on this team for a reason. And just the leadership that they showed me was like, okay, if they have confidence in me, like I totally have to believe in myself then. And I think that's something too that you don't really realize until you are at that level, that the coaches aren't there to tell you anything, to feed your ego, to do anything. It's really the team. And I think that's why, it's kind of to get a little ahead of myself, that's why like our team was so successful this year, was the fact that everyone just bonded as a family and wanted everyone to do as well as anyone else.
Yeah, Northeastern had one of the best regular season records in the country. You guys were consistently ranked one of the top 5 teams in the country. What was the key for maintaining that success throughout the regular season?
I honestly, it didn't even, it was never ranked, like it was never talked about how many games we won. It was never changed. Like we lost the first BC game, and after that game, like it was the same mentality. It was the same things that were said to us from the coaching staff after we continued to win every game. It was like, all right, like back to work, like keep going. And like we never got too high, we never got too low, and it was just constantly, okay, like there's something else we can work on, like let's make sure we're perfect. And I think that's what really helped us.
Yeah, and how does your team handle the pressure of being the number one seed in the country, especially since there's a lot of pressure and outside noise that comes with that ranking?
I just think it was, that's a great question. I don't really know. I just think everyone, we didn't even, it was like our head was down and we just didn't even look up. It was just never like, it was just like, we're almost there, ladies, like keep going, keep, like this is working, like let's keep rolling in this direction. And it was just always positive. It was never like, oh my god, if we don't do this then this is going to happen. It was just like, hey, like let's keep going, game after game, practice after practice, like let's get there.
Yeah, because a lot of players I talk to, they're always checking the rankings to see where they are just because of the tournament pairwise stuff, especially this year because there wasn't really a pairwise ranking. So you kind of had to rely on the rankings a little bit more, I guess, to understand who might make the tournament, who might not make the tournament. So I guess that's an interesting answer to me, just thinking about it that way.
But that's also too, like one thing our coach said to us, he was like, if we are number one, then we will make the tournament no matter what. He's like, I don't know how this ranking works. He's like, so let's just be number one, and that's that. And we're like, okay, like let's go. Like you say it, we'll do it.
Yeah, and you had to adjust to a lot of schedule changes throughout the regular season. How did you like mentally stay prepared for all the postponements and changes that happened to your schedule, especially in Hockey East, because you guys didn't even know who you were going to play until a few days before the game actually happened?
Um, I think for me personally, as a freshman, I was just so grateful to be there at all times that I was like, I'm not going to carry the emotions or whatever. Like, I'm hopping on this train, I'm hopping on this amazing team, and like, I'm going to let them lead and listen to what they have to say. And if we're playing Merrimack in an hour, then I'll be there. Like, if we're doing whatever, like, I'll be there, I'll do whatever I have to do. But at least for me, like, mentally, I just was kind of like, wherever I'm told to go, like I'm just going to listen. I'm just going to do that.
Now, 3-on-3 overtime was also introduced to college hockey this year. How did you adjust to having more space on the ice and having more chances for offensive opportunities?
Um, so in the PW, the league I played in last year, we would actually go into overtime and it would be 4-on-4. And then if it was a really big game, then we'd go 3-on-3 the next like 20 minutes or something. And so I was kind of familiar with that because I practiced it, but also too at Northeastern, every single mini game, like everything we do is 3-on-3. And so we're constantly working on that, which is just really fun because we felt like we were ready. We felt we were prepared for it, and it was exciting.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like you have to be a little more defensively minded in those 3-on-3 overtime situations because if you make one little defensive mistake, it can cause an odd man rush for the other team. Is that something you notice when you're part of those 3-on-3 overtimes?
Yeah, for sure. I guess for me being a defenseman, I always knew, okay, as long as I'm just going to be left back and I have my player, then that's what I'm going to worry about. So if someone doesn't have their player, like I'll do my best to be back, but I'm not going to be the kid that loses my player in the offensive zone. Like I'll just quarterback here and just kind of chill.
Yeah, definitely. And talk about playing in Matthews Arena and just how awesome it is being a player in that atmosphere. I know there wasn't any fans this year, but every time I go there, it's such a cool place to watch a game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what it's like. You're right. I don't know what it's like to play with fans, but just playing there in general, it's just amazing. Like I would even for practice, I'd get out on the ice around 5:15, and I would just kind of look around and take it all in. That there's been so many historical moments, so many exciting things, and exciting moments for me even to come that I'm just really looking forward to experiencing here.
Yeah, and I guess like how did you adjust to not having any fans? Was that an adjustment for yourself or not really? Because I know a lot of players sometimes don't even realize that fans are at the games.
Yeah, I mean, for me, growing up, the most I ever played in was like a boys' tournament when I was 14, and that was different. But I've never really played in front of like a ton of people, so it wasn't anything that I felt I had to adjust to. It was just kind of like, okay, yeah, like there's no one in the stands. That's it. No one to look for, so it's fine.
Yeah, maybe I'm a bit optimistic, but I'm assuming that there could be a full 100% capacity at all stadiums in Boston when next year starts. How are you going to adjust to having so many fans be at Northeastern hockey games just because you guys are such a great team?
Yeah, I didn't. Is that for sure that there is going to be
I don't think it's
100%
for sure. I'm
capacity?
just trying to be optimistic that there could be 100% capacity
Oh, I hope
in the
so.
fall. That was just me just being an optimist.
Yeah, no, I hope so too.
And how do you like plan to adjust to at least having some fans in the stands? Like, because I know Northeastern women's hockey, they're definitely going to have a lot of fans coming to the stadium, especially with the success that you guys had last year. So, are you ready for that adjustment? I guess, or are you? What do you hope? What do you expect having fans in the stadium next year?
I don't know. I'm excited. I guess at the Frozen Four, we had a decent amount of people, and at first I was concerned because it was also our families, and like I hadn't seen my family in over 10 months, and so I was like, oh my god, like they're in the stands, but it didn't phase me personally at all, and so I think adjusting to next year, I hope it won't phase me, but I will only be able to tell you in that moment because I don't even know. Maybe.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Now, what was your team's mindset heading into the national tournament this year after winning the hockey's championship at Matthews Arena?
I I was like, wow, like this is it. Like here we go. And it I don't know, it was just, for me it was just I hope no one gets COVID. Like I was so stressed. I couldn't even think about getting there until we were actually there because I we were all so worried about going outside just so we did not test positive.
Yeah, and I guess like how do you mentally deal with that fear of potentially getting the virus and spreading it amongst your teammates? Because I think that's an aspect of playing college hockey this year that a lot of people didn't realize. When, at least for myself, like when you're watching the games, you're not realizing that that potential spread could happen.
Yeah, it was honestly just being careful, being so careful, and being hyper aware of where you're going, what you're touching, what you're doing. And I don't know, like my roommates and I would hold our breath every time we check our emails for our results because we knew that if we got COVID, our season was for freshmen. It was just like, wow, this has been in the works for so many years for these seniors, for these juniors, for everyone here that we would hate to be the ones that would come in our first year and just wreck that. And so that was really scary for sure.
Now, in the tournament, you played Robert Morris in the first game. What did you overall take away from that game, especially against Robert Morris? Because you guys didn't, you never really played a lot of those players before in your career.
I think the takeaway from that, a huge takeaway is it could be anyone's game, any game, any time of the day. Um, and not that we took them like but I think that we weren't prepared for their style of play to be challenged like that. And we proved in the second and third that like how we play our Northeastern hockey, but I think we had to adjust and to figure out what we needed to do to win. And I think we did that in the end, which is cool to see us kind of finally play to our potential.
And how did playing in Hockey East help prepare you for the national tournament, going against teams in the WCHA and the CHA?
I think it's just kind of, hmm, I think I don't know. I just think when you're playing like teams like BC and Providence, Merrimack, it's just they're all very different teams that bring something else to the table, and so we kind of got to experience every type of team. We got to experience skilled teams, fast teams, super physical teams like Maine and UNH, and that kind of allowed us to learn and adapt and eventually kind of create this hybrid game of hockey that hopefully could beat any team when it came to going to the tournament.
You then played Minnesota Duluth in the Frozen Four. You guys were down by 2 goals heading into the third period. What was the message heading into the third period in the locker room? Like, what was Coach Flint trying to tell you guys?
It was like we were all like beside ourselves because we were like, oh my god. And he walked in and he was just like, hey ladies, like, you know what to do, like we're out here, like we're just chilling, like just get it done, and like walked out. And we were just like, yeah, like he's so right, like why are we freaking out? And I was shocked because I have never played such an important game in my life and I've never been in that situation. So I was like, are we gonna get ripped? Like, is someone gonna be crying? Like, I just went worst case scenario. And then he walked in and said that and I was like, yeah, like we're so prepared for this. And then we went out and played the way we did. And I think he was proud that we took what he said and kind of listened. And but it was great. It was really great that he said that because it kind of allowed all of us to breathe for sure.
Yeah, and just getting those 2 goals in the third period when Maureen got that goal in the power play and then Katie got that second goal to tie it up. I guess like what was going through your head when both those goals were scored?
Oh my god, I thought I blew my eardrum. I thought I like dislocated my jaw. I was screaming so loud. I almost stepped on my coach's foot with my skate. Like I was jumping up and down. I can't even explain the feeling. It was I couldn't even hear. Like everyone was just screaming so loud. It was amazing. Um, it was kind of funny because one of our goalies, who was on the bench that game working the door, she told us later that she burned 1,000 calories on her heart rate monitor because she was just screaming so loud. And she's like, I didn't even touch the ice, and she burned just as much as a player. And I just thought that was wild, and that kind of summed up the energy and the excitement of the game for sure.
Yeah, and then Skylar Fontaine scored that overtime winner. Just what was going through your head when she scored that goal and just celebrating with your teammates? Because I was talking to one of your teammates, Maureen Murphy, and she was telling me how she was telling Skylar Fontaine to just keep shooting the puck just because she had like 7 shots in that entire game, and and then she finally broke through and got that overtime winner.
Yeah, no, like I just playing with Sky this year, you're just as a player, like you're confident when she has a puck and she got it and she broke away, and I always think in my head I was like, it's over, it's done, and then she put it in, and I was just like, yeah, I was just like, there we go. And I knew it was gonna be someone on that line, whether it was Alina, Marine, Hobby, Sky, or Chloe, but I'm so glad I'm so glad that she did that because she played amazing and she totally deserved that goal.
Did it feel like that goal was going through slow motion? Because watching it from TV, it was like slowly trickled in the net. I don't know if you felt the same way being on the ice.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to just make sure I wanted to see everyone celebrate before I celebrate just because I was like, "Oh my god, we did it." But yeah, it was yeah, I could totally see it in slow motion too. It was wild.
Now, playing in the national championship game, how did you handle the nerves of being in that big game and one of the biggest games of your career?
I just was kind of I was like everything else at this point is just icing on the cake. Like I'm just so happy to be here and so happy to be able to put on that jersey. And it's funny though, I actually talked to my friend Dev Levi on the men's team because he played in the World Juniors this year, and I remember talking to him about what he kind of had to deal with mentally going to those games. And so I called him and talked to him before, and he kind of just told me what he did, and he just like, just have fun, like just don't worry about anything, and at the end of the day, like whatever happens happens. And that's what I kind of just thought about when it was time to go.
Yeah, no, he's such a great goalie. It was fun watching him in the World Junior Championships. I was very interested though because he never played with Northeastern this past year after playing in the World Juniors.
Yeah, no, he's an amazing goalie and an even more amazing guy. And he was kind of like the dark horse there in that situation, and he just went out. But yeah, no, he hasn't played yet, but we'll be playing in the fall for sure.
Definitely, definitely. Now back to your team. Heading into overtime, you're in another overtime situation in the national championship game. This time it was tied to 1-1. What was the message in the locker room during that overtime game, and was it different than the message in the third period against Duluth, the previous game you played?
Yeah, I think the message was like, we have them where we want them. Like, let's just finish it. Like, we felt really good going into it, and it was just the same message, and it was just, we're almost there. Like, keep going. Like, and yeah, it was more excitement though for sure than the other game.
Now, you unfortunately lost the game off a weird bounce scored in overtime. What emotions were you feeling after that goal was scored just because it was such a weird goal that happened?
I turned to, I forget, I think it was my roommate next to me, and I just said I wish they would have scored bar down, like at that point, just because it was so disappointing. I was just like, really, like, this is how we're gonna lose? Like, if we're gonna lose, I want it to be really bad, because like I just felt like we really deserved it.
Hmm.
But I know every team that lost would say that, but it really hurt. And especially, it obviously, going off of anyone is horrible, but Megan Carter too, just when she played such an amazing game, it just was not fair. But it is what it is.
And looking back on the season, what do you overall take away from it from your first year in college hockey, and how are you going to use that national championship game loss heading into next year as motivation?
I think it's just goes everything kind of into what I have learned about the team culture and like what our team culture is. And like, a winning team, you have to totally be a family. You all have to be on the same page. And I never knew what it was like to be on a team that everyone was dialed in. And it was really fun to experience. And it was really fun to taste what it's like to be at such a high level game. And I think it just makes us hungry to be back there again next year.
I want to ask you about some of the teammates you get to play with. One of them is Erin Frankel. She obviously won the Patty Kazmaier Award this year. What's she like as a teammate, both on and off the ice, and just how excited were you when she won the Patty Kaz this year?
Yeah, she is. I actually have the pleasure of sitting next to her in the locker room. And so I kind of got to see a fun side of her that not everyone kind of gets to see. She's hilarious and is just super calm, like the calmest goal I've ever played with, and just honestly made me super confident on the ice, just knowing that if I did mess up, like, she was going to be there. But when she won the Patty Cats this year, we were watching with our team and we went crazy. It was so exciting. We were so proud of her. And then when her parents spoke, like, we were all crying. Like, it was so cute. And it was just one of those moments that sent chills down my spine. It was awesome.
Now, another teammate I want to ask you about is Elena Mueller. I had the pleasure of interviewing her a few weeks ago. She's one of the nicest people I've ever met. What's she like as a teammate, both on and off the ice, from your perspective? And just talk about the skills that she has as a player, because every time I watch her, she's just a fun player to watch. I just don't know how to describe it.
It cut out when you said her name. I just didn't hear the name.
Oh, I apologize. Yeah, I want to ask you about playing with Elena Mueller. She's obviously one of the top players in the country, and I had the pleasure of interviewing her a few weeks ago. She's one of the nicest people I've ever met. I guess, like, what's she like as a teammate on and off the ice, and just talk about the skill that she has, just because every time I watch her play, it's just so much fun to watch.
Yeah, no, like, hands down the nicest person I've ever met. She is, I always just call her gingerbread. Like, she is just so cute and so sweet, and just an like overall great person and athlete. You just watch her if you never know what to do, and like she would just always do everything perfectly. And even for me as a player, like watching her honestly kind of just like reinvent the game. Like, she's just doing things that no one else does, and it's so creative and so fun. And I it was just amazing. Like, I know I would always want to go against her in one-on-one battles because I knew that this was going to be such a challenge for me, and if I ever like learned how to defend like a player such of herself, that would really help me. And she definitely just pushed everyone to be their very best every time, whether it was in the gym and in the locker room. She was just always such a great leader.
Now, the final teammate I want to ask you about is Skylar Fontaine. Great person as well. I've had the chance to interview her. What's she like as a teammate from your perspective? And just talk about the defensive skill that she has and the offensive skill that she has, because in my opinion, she's one of the most complete players in college hockey.
And you said Skylar Fontaine. I just cut
Yes.
out at the
Sorry,
beginning
I
again.
apologize. Yeah, Skylar Fontaine.
No, all good. My Wi-Fi is not very good, but no, she's amazing. She is we're actually really good friends, and she's just the biggest goofball ever, and just always wants to have fun and is always dancing. I know for me, like, I get nervous during games, and so whenever like I'm on the bench with her, like, she's dancing and like making sure everyone's like having a good time, but still like really focused. And she definitely like I always just watch her during practice because for me being a defenseman, she's what I aspire to be, and I'm sure everyone would aspire to be in terms of playing wise and everything, because she just sees the ice in such a way, and it's really incredible just watching her move. Like, I will sit back with our assistant coach and just be like, how did she do that? Like, it's just so easy and so effortless that it was really a pleasure to watch her and to kind of have her take me under her wing and have her kind of show me the ropes at Northeastern. It was fun.
So we're now in a segment I like to call the non-hockey segment, where I ask you some non-hockey questions. Now, so if there was a movie made about your life, who would you want to play yourself?
Oh my god, that's a good question. I don't really know. I'm trying to think. Maybe like Zoe Deschanel from New Girl. I feel like that would be a great representation of me. Just really out of it and laughs at everything for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that show. Is that your favorite TV show?
I wouldn't say my favorite, but definitely one that I watch a lot.
Definitely a good binge on Netflix, so I agree with you on that. Now, what is the most interesting thing you've seen or read this week?
Hmm. I actually read on Daily Mail. This is the most interesting thing, that Liam Hemsworth had a nose ring, and I think it's interesting just because in the picture he did not have a nose ring, and Daily Mail is the worst news whatever. Like, they spell everything wrong and everything is inaccurate, and so that's why it was so interesting, because I was like, wow, I could totally have written a better freaking news article than this. Like, their information is so just off the beaten path that it it's absurd.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to think of anything interesting that I've seen recently. Not really. Probably like stuff from the NFL draft. Like, I was just interested to see where like certain players would go. So I think that for myself was the most interesting thing. I'm kind of a boring person. I really just watch sports and that's it.
Yeah, I'm just strictly hockey and that's it.
hmm Yeah, no, I'm more hockey too. That's my favorite one, but I do like watching baseball, especially during the off season, since that's the only thing that's going on for the most part.
Oh yeah, that's true. I've never watched baseball, but I should start, sure.
Yeah, it's fun. There's some good college teams, especially I think Northeastern. They have a good baseball team. So if you ever have the chance, you should go to a game. And you're close to Fenway as well, one of the best ballparks in the country.
Yeah, that's true. That's
You could
very
try.
true.
It's very, very fun visit. Like for your first time at a game, it's like kind of interesting just because it's such a unique stadium since it's over 100 years old. So I recommend it if you have the chance to do it.
Yeah, I think yeah, I'll definitely do that. I've heard it's super fun. Yeah, I gotta
Now,
check
you're
that.
obviously known as one of the top hockey players in the world, but besides being a good hockey player, what do you wish more people knew about yourself?
Um, I don't know. I maybe that I'm just a huge goofball. Maybe that's probably be the most interesting part about me. Um, yeah, I'm my identity is a hockey player. I hate to say it, but right now, yeah, that's I'd have to say that would be the other most important thing for sure.
Now, who is the funniest teammate you have at Northeastern?
God, there's a lot of funny people, but I'd have to say Peyton Anderson is one of the funniest people I've ever met. I am just constantly in tears whenever I'm around her.
Who is the best trash talker on the team?
Ooh, I don't know. I think Aaron. I gotta say, Aaron had some pretty good chirps that she told me to use on some other players, but they're pretty creative. But let's just say you wouldn't want to be told that. You wouldn't feel too good.
Yeah, no, like as a goalie, it's easy to make chirps just because you're observing all the players that are happening, and you get to see what's going on the other end of the ice. So I feel like goalies are usually the best chirpers.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, who has the best style on the team besides yourself?
No, definitely not me. But Alina and Chloe just have this like European like flair that every time they walk in the room on game day, everyone's just like, damn, like they know how to dress, like they know what they're doing.
Now, final non-hockey question is: what music do you like to listen to on a general basis?
I listen to a lot of country to be honest. A lot of country and a lot of rap. I think it just depends on the day and the vibe, but you can never go wrong with a little bit of Luke Bryan and maybe some Kanye,
Hmm.
keeping it real.
Good mix. Yeah, I agree with that. Now, back to some hockey questions. Now, what do you think should be done to help grow women's hockey, in your opinion, especially with the news of the World Championships being canceled and then getting rescheduled?
I just think a really wealthy man or woman needs to just step up and put a shit ton of money into women's hockey, and so it can't be canceled because this man is backing it and or woman is backing it, because there's just not enough money. There's not enough money, so there's no revenue, there's nothing to pay the athletes themselves, and they just need more money and for it to grow, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you on that. And it was just disappointing to see the news because I know some of your teammates were going to play in the World Championships. I know Aaron Frankel was supposed to play. And it's just disappointing, like how quickly they canceled it and how they had basically no backup plan to reschedule.
It's just sad. Like I don't think it's so sad because I feel like as female athletes we make a lot of headway. It's like 4 steps forward,
Hmm.
5 steps back, and you're just like like so disappointing. Like what are we doing here, guys? Let's figure it out.
Yeah, definitely. Now, what advice would you give a younger player trying to pursue a Division I college hockey scholarship?
Just work hard. I mean, I was always told this, that if you are best or whatever, then you can't be overlooked. And so just kind of never be content and always kind of stay hungry and striving to be better. And you can never be the best, but you can just get closer to that. And that's all I have to say.
Now, do you have any shout outs you'd like to give to any of your family members, friends, or teammates before I let you go? I know I've mentioned a few players on the interview already, but if there's anyone I forgot to mention, feel free to shout them out.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, hey to the ladies back home at Northeastern. Miss you guys and can't wait to see you in the fall.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Lily. I really appreciate your time. I wish you all the best in the off season. Stay safe, take care, and I look forward to hopefully watching your team in person soon if they let fans back in the stadium.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I really look forward to that. And thank you so much for having me. It's really been a great time. Thank you.